Hello, my friends. John LaRuffa here with another Straight Up Solo. And in this episode, we are going to take a look at the expansion for Stroganov. Okay, so this is the Turukhan expansion. I'm going to just talk you through what the expansion does. I have a video on the solo game as it is, and so check that out if you're interested in the actual solo game. But let's go ahead and get started, and I'll tell you after I do the explanation what I think about it. Okay, folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. If you have, I really do appreciate the support. Thank you very much. So there's 4 modules in this. The first module has to do with these squirrels. So basically what you can do is you can draw a squirrel now from this bag. This would be a number 1. And they're a little bit of a nuisance, so to speak, in the fact that you can't spend them for anything except for this trader right here. And there are 4 different tiles where this guy will start over here, and the next round he goes here, and the next round he goes here, and then the last couple he stays here. And basically what you're going to be able to do with this is trade them for some exchange. So if you have 1, for instance, in this case, you get 1 point, you can get something from the market. If you have 2, you can get 3 points and 2 things from the market. And the other ones are variations on the same theme where there's coins and other things that you can get. And so that's the first expansion. Really easy to implement. Just literally pick one of these things, throw the rest in the bag. Everything is good. The second thing is this Czar's Hunt kind of thing here, okay? So what happens here is when you hunt like normal, when you hunt for a tile and you pick up one of these, if I was to get a 6, for instance, over here, not only would I get the 6, but I would slide down my token over here. And then if later on I got a 4, I'd slide it down over here. Same thing with the opponent, all right? They would actually prefer to do that. So if there's ever a situation where they go hunting, they will always go ahead and hunt for the one that's there. And the reason you're doing this is because it makes the contracts easier to pay for. So for instance, let's just take a look at this contract right here. Notice it's got the 4, okay? That's in the red, but then there's 3 other 4s above it, all right? Normally, in order to do this, you'd have to spend one of the 4s and then have the 3 other ones above it, right? Well, what you can do instead here is instead of having the 3 other ones above it, you can go back up this hunting track to count for these ones temporarily like you have them in your hand. Now you still are in your area. Now you still have to spend that 1, but let's just say I only had the 1 to spend and I was on this space right here. I could go 1, 2, 3 and not have to have any of the other ones in order to pay for this. So that's pretty easy to implement, and it gives you some more flexibility. And the way that works for the solo is they basically just get points depending on how many they have. They don't ever really pay for contracts, so they just get different point values. So that's what that one is. The other one, or the number 3, replaces these tiles in these positions with better versions of tiles. So there's A's and B's. The A's have to do with some special things. So when you get this tile, as a special action from now on, you could do whatever it says. So for instance, every time you would take the achieve action over here or whatever it was called, you then could do whatever this is here. It says, I think it means that you don't have to spend. I don't remember what that means. They're all in here, okay? And then in every winter, you would be able to do this action automatically, all right? And so there's a lot of different ones here. And then the B actions specifically help you for the end of the game. So they help you do something right away as an action, but then there's some specialty for the end of the game. The other thing is that these count, the A's count as a wild card for your set collection. So you can use these as any of the 4 types. And then the B's count as another one. And this would allow you to get, I believe, 15 points if you got 5. If you got all 4 of those plus this tile, it would count as 15 points, if I remember correctly. And so these are kind of interesting. What it really does, though, is it tries to encourage you to get out and down and gives you a better reason for going deep into the wilderness, not just to go first, not just to get some of these village actions, which may or may not be part of your strategy, but these tiles are really good. And that is very good to get. And so it kind of encourages that gameplay to focus down here. Then the last mod, expansion module has you interacting with this diplomacy track. And the way that works is, at the beginning of the game, you are going to draw one of these tiles that corresponds to one of the 4 landscapes. And then you're going to put a diplomacy marker on every one of those types of landscapes that come out. And if more come out later, you'll put diplomacy markers on there. And what that allows you to do is when you move to that space as a free action, does not count as any action at all, you can donate a fur of your choice to that space, but it does not go into the hunting area. It goes over here. And depending on the number on the fur, depends on how much you move up the diplomacy track over here. Every time you cross one of these, land or cross one of these areas, you get the bonus. And then during the winter, whatever the difference is between the spaces, so for instance, if like I was here and the opponent was here, whatever the difference is, the person in the front would get that in points. So it would be 5 minus 2. I'd get 3 points for being further ahead, okay? You can see that there are 10 spaces, so if you get deep down in there, you can score a lot of points depending on what the opponent's going to do. And so this is another way to utilize your furs besides just spending them for tiles, besides spending them for contracts. And what it really does is, if you end up with furs that you don't necessarily want to use, that aren't exact matches for what you're going for, you could still use them to donate to go up on this track. And so it makes for a more flexible gaming experience. So those are what all 4 of these modules do. Let me tell you what I think about it. So what I would say is, from a solo standpoint, these modules go into this game very well. If you like the base game, you are going to like what the expansion brings. It just gives you more options. It gives you options you can customize. You don't have to play with all these modules at once. You can play with a couple of them at once, or you can play with all of them at once. All depends on what you want. Very easy to play with all of them at once if you wanted to without feeling too overwhelmed, because none of them are so drastically complicated or convoluted that it makes for a majorly different experience. The one that's the most different is the diplomacy track, but even that, pretty easy to figure out. You're basically going to donate a the tile, like I said, and move forward. It's not mind-blowingly difficult. It doesn't really, the expansion itself doesn't really introduce any excess or shortage of anything. It still definitely feels like the game. It feels like what you've got here. It just provides more to it. And so for those who can find it, and what's sad is that unfortunately the publisher has gone out of business, so there's probably a limited supply. If you have the opportunity to find it and you like the base game, you're going to like this too. Does it make the base game? If you didn't like the base game, will you like it because of this expansion? I doubt it. If you didn't, it definitely has the same type of feel to it, okay? So all it's doing is helping breathe more life into this game versus change anything drastically. So if you were a big fan of the base game, I think you're going to like this if you can find it. It's not going to be too expensive, at least unless it's being scalped or whatever. But I think it's going for a reasonable price out of the gate if you can get your hands on it. The big box componentry, right? That's what I originally looked at. All of the stuff is thicker, so it's definitely been reproduced and done well. If you can get the big box, it's definitely worth doing if you find it on sale. And going that approach, unless, instead of trying to piecemeal the stuff together. So it's better, I think, if you want to get it, just to get the big box and get it all there. You're not going to have too much content. It's not like, oh, I wasted my money because I don't need to play the expansion modules. It's not too much more expensive, I don't think. In the expansion, I think you're going to play with 1 or 2 of them almost right out of the gate. The easiest one to do would just be to toss in the one with the squirrels. I mean, that is virtually no different, but it's still kind of fun. The rewards for those squirrels, being able to trade them, feel impactful enough to make it so that you feel like, hey, this is cool, this is good, I like what's going on here, I'm satisfied with it. And I like the bonus, like I needed that coin, or I needed this or that, and now I was able to do that. It does not make, I guess I'll say one thing, the hunting is challenging when you play against a solo, because the solo will naturally get those animals a little bit easier than you will, just because of the way it works. I shouldn't say naturally, but he's going to gun for those things, right? And so in that respect, If you're going to play with that, you're going to have to deal with a pretty big point push on his end, maybe up towards 10 points. So you better make sure you're getting your own score's worth out of that, right? Getting those contracts, getting a focus there. And so it just adds more to think about, but I wouldn't say that any of it is overwhelming by any means. Is it an essential expansion? No. Is it a good one? Yes, it is. And it's perfectly suitable for solo because each of the modules has a solo modification in the back of how the opponent works with that without really changing any of the base mechanics. You don't have to do any new cards. It's all very approachable. So that's what I think about it. I think it's a good thing if you can find it. And if you can, I would snag it up because it's a good game. I really do like this game. I like it. Even after having it for years, playing it solo again with this expansion has been really fun. Still enjoy it. Still holds the test of time. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. Whatever you do in the future, I really hope you have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy.